Welcome to Hollywood and Sip. I'm your host, Kat Smith, and with me today is my good friend, Stephen Cole, who is a playwright, a performer, a lyricist. What else do you want to call yourself?
Oh gosh, I've been a director, lots of things. Book
Lots of things.
writer, I have published books, all that, short story writer. What else? I eat well. I like to eat. Yes, anyway. So
Yes.
how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Sheltering in place like you are.
Yes, so
Yes.
we are too. Here I am in Jersey City, just across the river from Manhattan. Great view, but across the river. I haven't been across that river in a couple of months. Pretty amazing.
Isn't it strange? I mean, I think even just going to Nevada, which is only like 20 minutes away, seems so far right now from Sonoma Valley, where I am.
Yes, of course, it really is. We're in a new world.
Yes, and I saw on Facebook that you had the nasal swab done. I hope that wasn't too bad.
I did. It didn't hurt at all. I highly recommend it. It was just fine. 5 seconds of slight discomfort up your nose, but not a problem. And Jersey City and LA are the only two cities right now doing it citywide for free. So we decided to do that.
And so have you been limiting your exposure? You just felt like you wanted to do it for maybe comfort reasons?
No, I am definitely limiting my exposure, but I've been doing that anyway, for always masked, always gloved, outside and in the supermarket. I believe in all of that, because it's not for me, the mask, it's for you. It's so that nobody knows if they're asymptomatic. So that's why we're doing it, and being very careful as possible. And, we're in a new world.
We definitely are. I heard someone say today, we're not doing this for me, we're doing this for we. And I thought that was a nice way to put it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it isn't just a selfish move at all. It's really for everyone.
Well, speaking of Brave New Worlds, you were supposed to come out here for an awards ceremony, which had to kind of alter how they gave you your award, but I'm going to let you tell us what you won, because it's pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah. Well, the San Francisco Bay Area Drama Critics Circle had nominated Merman's Apprentice, which was at Sonoma Arts Live, and I think you were in it.
I was.
We were nominated for 6 awards, three acting awards, 2 production awards, and Best Score, Best Music, which included the lyrics. And we wound up winning Best Score, which I only found out online. You know, the wonderful lead of the show IM'd me on Facebook, and I was very, very excited. And then I went and saw that they had given it to us. But we would have been out there at the awards, you know, being able to accept and schmooze with everybody, and that would have been so much fun. But we got it anyway, so that was nice. Better to win. I was actually nervous. I'm always nervous about things like that. I would fly all the way across the country and lose, but we didn't, so that was really nice. And so yeah, but I missed being back there, and I hope to be back there next year, perhaps at this time. And but it was really exciting to win the award for the score, which we love madly.
Well, I'm really excited you won it too. And I was really looking forward to you guys being out here for it, because I've got to tell you, because I'm not a professional actor. I mean, I studied theater and I've done plays, but I do it for fun, right? So this was actually the first play that I was a part of that was nominated for awards. And that was really exciting to me. It's so, I'm honored to have been part of something so major.
Oh, that's sweet and lovely. And you were great. And everyone was great in that show. So I was honored too. And I've had shows in the Bay Area before. I had my musical, The Night of the Hunter, which premiered closer to San Francisco. And I don't know that we were nominated then. So it was really exciting to get this and to have the kind of reviews we got. And it could not have been more fun and better.
And we had chatted before because, I don't follow the Bay Area Awards often, but it seems to me like it's a little bit unique to have two women from the same performance be up for lead in a musical. And that's what your show had. Both Danny and Emma were nominated for the Best Actress in a Musical. But we
Correct.
kind of talked about how maybe that kind of worked against them. Maybe that kind of split their votes. We're going to believe they were robbed.
Yeah, that happens in the Tonys also. Sometimes when a bunch of actors from the same show get nominated, they wind up, canceling each other out. But we know who was great.
Right.
So that's all that counts. And we also had the third actress nominated for supporting, and she wasn't against anybody in the show. But she also was a runner-up, let's call it.
Yeah.
Runner-up, Miss Congeniality. She was
Julia Holsworth, who played Ethel Merman's mother. You know what? Before I explain about her character, for the people who haven't seen Merman's Apprentice, first of all, it's online right now. You can stream it and watch the performance from Sonoma Arts Live doing Merman's Apprentice here in Sonoma Valley, the world premiere of the staged performance. But why don't you tell people what the story of the musical is?
Oh, sure. Well, it's a completely fictional show, even though it's about Ethel Merman. But it's really about a little girl named Muriel Plackenstein from Brooklyn, New York, Canarsie in particular, where I was brought up. And she is 12 years old. She runs away from home in 1970 to become a Broadway star. And she runs into the biggest Broadway star on Broadway, Ethel Merman. And Ethel just takes her under her wing. First, she takes her to lunch at Sardi's. Then she takes her to rehearsal. They sing together. The great producer, David Merrick, sees them and hears them and sees that child who has a lot of talent and said, I'm going to star you in the first all-child cast of Hello, Dolly. And Ethel becomes her mentor, and she becomes Merman's apprentice. And along the way, she meets her parents, and she meets a bunch of people who are Broadway denizens, and in fact does get to go on opening night in the Hello, Dolly number instead of Ethel Merman. And it's quite a wonderful, funny thing when you watch the number and you watch what happens. But it's every 12-year-old child who wants to be a star. It's their fantasy. And so that's what the show's about. It's really about Muriel, and it could be called Madonna's Apprentice, but it isn't. It's about Ethel Merman, and I knew Ethel Merman for real in life, and so I got to know she was a vulnerable, sweet, regular lady who happened to talk like this from Brooklyn, but she was actually from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn, and I wanted to show both sides of her, the big star, and also the personal end of it. And we created her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Zimmerman, because that was her real name, She cut off the Zim and the last N and became Merman, and from Zimmerman. But her parents, I decided they weren't big and loud like her. They were very quiet. And that became comedy for them, and they got a wonderful song called Loud, about how their little baby girl was loud and they didn't know how to deal with it. So that became their big duet. So it's half fiction, half real, based on nothing but my imagination, really. So that's a very funny show.
And we kind of had the perfect storm of events that led to putting on this show, because it was brought to Jamie, the executive artistic director of Sonoma Arts Live, by Emma's mom. Emma plays Muriel, and she is absolutely perfect for the role, but she also was kind of right there at the cusp of, okay, she can't pull it off later in life. She's got to do it now or never.
Correct.
And then Danny Innocenti Beam, she is just, you have a picture on your Facebook page side by side of her in her costume and Ethel Merman, and it is uncanny.
Yeah, no, but she's a huge talent. I mean, she has
Yes.
an incredible voice that can sing anything, but she really could be Ethel if she wants to be. And she's a great comedian. She knew
Yes.
exactly the tone I wanted from the show. She became a real person with all the comedy and with all the star quality that's needed to play a character like that. And
Right.
it is a character. You know, I think even Ethel played Ethel. When she was on television, she would just sort of zoom into being Ethel Merman when she was on a talk show or something. And in real life, she was just a lady I knew from Queens. But Danny knew how to do both also, which was really nice. She's
Right.
just brilliant, just brilliant. Both of them were pretty
I,
amazing. And yeah, it's interesting that Emma had to play 12 and or 13 at the most, and she's probably 15 or 16 now. So I think, you know, like next year she'll play Ethel.
right. Right. She's working her way up to Ethel.
Right, she will get there.
One of the cutest things about their relationship too was that in real life the two actors are very close in a similar way. And I think if you watch the video, I believe it was filmed on closing night, and I think you can see there's a moment where I choke up. Nobody's looking at me, so you'd have to go look for it because everybody's focused on Ethel and Muriel at this point. But there's a moment that they have together on closing night where she's saying the lines of Ethel, but they're coming out as Danny to Emma. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now, but you could see me kind of turn and go, I'm not crying. I'm not crying.
Yeah, well, you know, a big thing in the theater is chemistry.
Mhm.
When two people have to star with each other, you need a chemistry. You need to know that they are going to jive that way. And this was very, very great luck to have
Yeah.
that chemistry off stage and on. And it's like a love story, except it's an older woman and a little girl.
Right.
And it's a unique show in that sense, because that's the love story of that, and also of theater, and of learning how to be a professional in the theater, because that's what Ethel was. She did 13 Broadway musicals in 30 years of and never missed performances. And they were all hits. She had one semi-flop in the 50s, but mostly everything was a huge hit. Annie Get Your Gun ran for 3 years. She never missed a show. Pretty amazing. And so that's the teaching that she is giving to Muriel in the show. This is one of the reasons I love the show so much too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really amazing story. And then this was the first time having it staged with movement and costumes and set changes and all of that, because you had performed it in concert before, but
Correct.
this was the first moving motion of it. So
Oh yes.
how exciting was it to see that happen? And tell us a little bit of the process when you got here, because you were here for, was it a week or 2 weeks?
Oh, more than 2 weeks at
Yeah.
least before the opening. Yeah, we were thrilled to be able to come there and work on the piece with the cast and with the directors and with the choreographer, and to finish it up, because you're never polished until you're finished, and you're never finished until you die. So you would see something and you go, well, that doesn't work, or that works better than that does. And I'd be able to help polish it in that way and make some changes or cuts. We took out scene changes that didn't need to be there. And they looked really good on paper, but
Right.
they didn't need to be there on the stage. And the stage and the live actors is what makes it all become real. And then the final collaborator shows up on the first night, and that's the audience. And the
Right.
audience tells you even more. And that's why they have previews and out of town, because the audience tells you lots of stuff. In this case, we didn't make any changes after the first preview or the opening, but I went home and I rewrote some more. And so the next time that somebody does the show, it'll be even better than it was, because I kept learning from seeing it. Even the few times I saw it, I saw exactly what I wanted to do, what I wanted to put back, what I wanted to take out. I got rid of a whole character. Don't worry, it's not yours.
Okay.
And it's just tighter and better, at least on paper. And I won't know that until I see it up on its feet again with costumes and scenery and lighting and orchestra, all of that. We had a big band. We had 6 pieces playing there that sounded like 20. They were so
Yeah.
fantastic. And those were the orchestrations we had used on our CD and on our and at Birdland in New York, the famous jazz club. And those players were great. They did such a great job. So it really was a fully realized delight. And I couldn't be happier about it. And now to have an award, yay.
Yeah. We should chat a second about your musical composer that helped you with
David
this.
Evans, of course, we're talking
Yes.
about this show about how fabulous the music is. He's the composer. And he, every note is his and every word is mine. And we fiddle with each other's stuff a little bit, but we give each other opinions because we're true collaborators. And I've worked with lots of composers in my career. And so each one has a different dynamic, but he's delightful. And he was there the whole time too, helping the band and helping the singers and helping everybody and also making the changes with me. And, we'd go home and drink a lot and make more changes. So David's great. David's just great. David also in his day job is being the associate conductor of Wicked on Broadway for the last 16 years. Not doing it at the moment, but he'll be back when they're back. But David has been musical director of many Broadway shows and composer of off-Broadway shows that have run a long time. So we worked together. Oddly enough, we met because he musical directed a workshop of my musical, The Night of the Hunter, and which had a different composer, Clay Richardson, and we kind of liked each other. And he said, well, why don't we write a show together? And we were looking for something. And then I wrote this as a short story that I never quite finished. And he liked it, and he thought it was a great idea. So we started to work on it, and that's how it all came to be.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I think you guys are working on a one act
Right.
production.
We finished a one act based on another of my short stories, which is really about the nature of truth and lies. And it's based on real life, 2 characters I knew, 2 people I knew that have now become characters. And it's called Ain't It the Truth, which is a good title. We're looking for a companion piece with it, but it's really about this young writer who meets 2 different people, and it's figuring out who lies and who tells the truth. And there's a lot of that in this business. There are liars out there. Well, it's kind of very fitting for today's world. What is true and what is not? Because we get online and we don't even know what's real and what isn't half the time. And this is it's a good story, and I'm very excited about it. But it needs another piece because it's not something we want to make longer. It's 1 hour, and that's it. And either we do it and everybody gets to go home early, or we get another piece with it, and and we haven't found that yet.
Right. I think a showcase of 2 stories is good. I think that gives the audience a little extra. And I was thinking, so I talked to Jamie Love yesterday. Her interview is going to play after this interview on KSVY. And we were chatting about how maybe the baby steps into next season look kind of like 1 and 2 person shows for a while, and she even said maybe 4 or less cast members. I think that's kind of going to be maybe the break back into theater for everybody. So it's a good time for a 2-person show. But I know you also have a 1-person show.
Yes. Maybe I should just come out there and do it right now.
I think you should.
I had a 1-person show that had to get postponed because it was going to be playing in April 2 nights. It's also, a lot of my stuff is based on me. What else would it be based on? And this one is based on the true story that happened when one day I got an email that said, "We want you write musical, how much?" And I thought, what is this? Yeah. And it turned out to be real. Talk about not knowing if something's real or a lie. I was brought to the Middle East to write the first American musical to premiere in the Middle East for the Emir of Qatar. We went to Dubai, and Qatar and Bratislava and London. And I was put together with another collaborator named David Crane, who became a fabulous collaborator of mine and friend. And we have a new show happening next spring also in Dallas. And we went on this incredible 9-month journey of writing the biggest musical you ever saw in your life. It had 20 camels and 40 Arabian stallions and falcons. I remember when they said, you can have falcons. I said, do they have tap shoes? And the camels, which pooped everywhere, you know they do, and flying stars in the sky and flying carpets. Anything I wrote, they put on that stage. And it was done in the largest domed soccer stadium in the world, in Qatar. They've since had the Asian Games there. We opened the stadium. The night before we did our show, they had the Cirque du Soleil. So you can imagine how big it was. Yeah. And we did this huge musical. They wanted their very own American musical, and they found me. I asked them in the end, how did you find me? And they said, your website. So I said, Stephen Sondheim doesn't have a good website. So we got paid quite a bit of money to do all this. Wound up in the end not getting our final payment, which was a little disheartening, but we did okay. And then we wrote a show about the whole experience with only 5 characters in it, called The Road to Qatar, which premiered in Dallas and then played off Broadway and played London and the Edinburgh Festival and has a CD. So that did very well. And since then, I've done a one-man version of it where I do all the parts. And it's not a musical version, but it's more like stand-up comedy. And so we were going to do this out in Brooklyn in a theater that I knew. And I decided to title it Camelton, so that we could sell $1,000 seats. And maybe no one would know. But we used the logo with the camel instead of the star. It was very fun. And then unfortunately it's postponed. But I was going to sing a few songs in it anyway, just to make sure they knew that I had a little talent besides just the comedy. But the comedy stuff was a blast to work on them, and looking forward to doing it again. I really am. So it'll have some video in it too, because we have a lot of video. If you go on YouTube and you want to know more about this, go see The Road to Qatar. It's a 2-part documentary which shows you what the show was like and what was going on in Qatar when we were there. Pretty amazing. And we talk about it, and David and I. It's a very, very good documentary. We don't say anything bad, of course, because we were there.
Right.
But the show itself is very impolitically correct, whatever you want to say. We're un-PC. We make fun of everybody we could possibly make fun of, including ourselves and our mothers. So.
I'm definitely going to have to look for that. I did not know that was out there, so now I'm very excited to see that.
You want to see that documentary.
Oh, for sure.
And ask questions of what really happened.
Yes.
It's worth it. It's worth it. So, excuse me, my tape machine is squealing at me.
Okay.
All right, we're fine.
It's fine. As long as you're not about to explode, we're good.
No. I'm sitting here in my office. You can see all my books in the back there.
I love it. I love it.
Some of my theater books, yeah. So I'm kind of living in there.
Yeah. And then after you left our show, Merman's Apprentice, so we launched the first weekend, and then you flew right off to Casper.
Correct. I had to go into rehearsal. They had been rehearsing. This was in Cincinnati, at the Children's Theater of Cincinnati, which literally we were their 100th year anniversary. They've been around for 100 years and entertaining children. Some of those children are probably still alive. No, not. The original children came in walkers.
Right.
But Casper, which was a show that I was years ago, and it starred Cheetah Rivera, the great Broadway star. And I wrote it for her. We got her to star in it. She toured all the big summer theaters around the country. And then it went away for almost 20 years until this theater decided they wanted to do it. And to do it, though, in a new version that was more kid-friendly. And so I rewrote it, and they rehearsed a lot while we were doing Merman's, and I showed up to see what they had. And it was great. and the rehearsal was so exciting, and it was big and wonderful with flying and real ghosts. And they did a wonderful thing for the ghosts. Casper flew, but his uncles, I don't know if you remember them from the cartoons, Stinky, Fatso, and
Yes.
Stretch.
Yeah.
They instead of flying, they were on wheelies, so they floated across the stage,
Oh,
and it
how
was really
cool.
delightful. And they did dance numbers that way, and it's just great. They did everything I could possibly dream of. The choreography was great. It was a big cast in a huge theater of like 2,000 seats. And I got to go to the opening, and it was so exciting to hear these kids. And it was around Halloween then when they opened. So the kids all showed up in costumes, and that was really fun. And so it was really a wonderful experience. So I had a great fall from, you know, both of those shows. One had been around for a little longer than the other, but it was very exciting to go from one to the other. And then come home and get to work on the next new one, which is going to happen in, as I said, in Dallas in 20, what year are we in?
2021.
So 21, in 21, in June, we're going to premiere Go in Hollywood, which I wrote with David Crane, my cohort from the Middle East. And it's a huge big Broadway show that has time travel, and it takes two people back to 1949 Hollywood, and where they go to work as writers at MGM and find out that no matter how much you may wish for the past, it might be just as bad as the present, which I think in today's world, and I've been writing this a while, it is even more pertinent than it was when we started writing it. Because you think now, nothing could be worse than now, and well, it could be just as bad maybe.
Right.
So, but I think we all have fantasies of escaping our time and going back to a better time. And it's just to find out that that's not really what it's about. You have to live in your time and deal with it and move to the future rather than the past. So that show is we're excited. And we're going to do a workshop of that maybe in early fall. We'll see.
Oh, that'll be exciting. That sounds like a really good one. Is it like big dance numbers and things?
There will be, yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's a large cast, and it's got a little of everything. It's very funny, but it also really focuses on the blacklist in Hollywood and anti-Semitism and racism and anti-feminism, everything that was 1949 that you think, oh, well, that must have been so wonderful. Well, it was wonderful for some people,
Right.
but not all people. And times don't really change. They just morph a little bit. People are still the same kind of people. But, we just hope we hope we're a little better than that.
Yeah.
So that's what that show's really about. And it's got a wonderful love story in it too. The two writers have to figure out that they mean more to each other than just writing together, and it becomes a love story, which is great.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, I feel like you should bring another show to Sonoma. That's just what I'm thinking.
I agree. Well, you know, I'm always talking to Jamie because I love working there. And we may just do something next year or a little into the season. But she's not announcing yet, is she?
No, so what we discussed is she kind of has 3 plans that are kind of ever in motion. So depending on how news goes, plan A will be announced. At the time, it might be plan B. So there's a little bit of flux going on with the plan right now.
Yeah, no, I understand that totally. You know, the theater in Dallas is having different kind of plans. They've canceled several of their shows, and to make sure that our show has enough money, they are talking about streaming, which everybody is talking about, because we don't know if people are going to want to sit near each other, and we just don't know anything. And as long as we can keep it alive, and streaming is a great idea. You could have small audiences and then have other people paying to see it in a different way, and they don't have to worry about wearing the masks. And we'll see. But yeah, well, I want to come back, of course.
Yeah.
Had a wonderful time. And I've got some ideas. And if I do come back, you know, I'd be happy to do my one-man show as a benefit.
I would love to see
Tell
that.
Jamie that.
I will.
Because it'll be ready then. You know, I'm hoping I get it done in the fall somehow, somewhere, streaming, anything.
Yeah.
So we'll do it. We'll do it.
You have a little time for rehearsing too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
what else?
did you want to sing us a song?
Oh, sure. Well, you know, in this show, Campbellton, I do a few songs. I'm doing an opening number, which actually is the opening number from Ain't It the Truth, but I'm not going to do that for you right now. And that's a song about truth, and saying that I would never lie to you. And then later on, when I talk about this whole experience of the Middle East, I talk about that, and I do something from that, from the audition for that. But I also had a show that I'm very, very fond of, and it was originally called Gross Singers. And for those of you who don't know what Gross Singers was, it was the greatest hotel in the Catskill Mountains of New York State. And that was known as the Borscht Belt, or the Jewish Alps. In the early part of the 20th century, you have to remember, Jews had no place to go. They were restricted hotels. And they all gravitated to the Catskill Mountains, and a bunch of little boarding houses turned into major, major hotels. Grossingers being the Cadillac of all of those places. And a woman named Jenny Grossinger, a very pushy, ballsy woman, really built the place and ran the place. Even though she had a husband and a father and children, she became known as the hostess of the East. And she was everybody's Jewish mother. And they would show up. But we're talking about, you think of Las Vegas on steroids, but without gambling. That's what Grossingers was like. It was open year round after a while. It was so big. Every star played there. Eddie Fisher, the great Eddie Fisher, was discovered there by Eddie Cantor. And then he married Debbie Reynolds there. And then he married Elizabeth Taylor there. And then, and then he divorced them both. But this was the kind of stuff that went on there. They had boxers training there. They had incredible stuff. So the show came to me via these two wonderful TV writers, one named Rita Lakin, who lives in your area and was at the opening of Merman's Apprentice. And Rita, I won't tell her age, but she was a major TV writer in the 60s, won a bunch of awards and has written lots of novels. And she and her friend, Doris Silverton, came up with this idea to write a musical about this hotel and all of this that went on. And they eventually abdicated their role as writers and brought me in. And I rewrote the show, and we got a production on first in Fort Worth, Texas, of all places to take a show that was about a bunch of Jews in the Catskills. But we found out that there were plenty of Jews in Fort Worth, Texas. They showed up and said, oh, hell yeah, we love Blintzes. We love this show. They had accents and they had boots, but they were Jews. And it was fun. And it starred Ruta Lee, who was a TV star, and Gavin MacLeod, who was a great TV star from The Love Boat, and Mary Tyler Moore. I had a great time working on it there. But then we took it and revised it and made it smaller. Good idea to take a big show and make it small, more producible. It became Saturday Night at Grossingers. And it premiered on Long Island, and then it played in LA for 4 months. It played in Florida. And I keep changing it every time I do it and making it better. But there's one song. So this is a whole, getting to the song is this one song that I wrote. There's a character, the second lead is named Sheldon Seltzer. I was thinking, and he was what is known as a tumblr. And a tumblr, think Danny Kaye, think of those people who made you laugh from the movies, because they all were this originally in the Catskills. And he was a waiter, he was a bellboy, he cleaned the rooms, he did everything possible, but he also made the guests laugh. So at one point in the show, he's a waiter. I'm gonna find this track so I can play this for you. And he has to get to the guests and feed them, but also give them a little laugh. Let's see. So Sheldon sings, you want the melon ball, the matzo ball, the meat apple, the knish, the liver, and the onions. First you gotta taste the fish, 'cause our chef, she went and built a new way to gefilte. And speaking of which, the pool is gefilte too. You'll see that later when I swim around to you. Now, with stuffed cabbage and stuffed kishka, I'll stuff Mrs. Wasserstein. There's a turkey and a chicken and a goose. Ow! See what I mean? Here, what we got is a latza, bread and cake and matzah, tureens and bowls and pots. So what's in store? You got Griefius, what a curious, Triaximis for your tourists, and a Bosch is best. So bust your belts, come along. You get the melon bowl, the matzo bowl, the meatball, the knish, the liver and the onion, the delish gefilte fish. Since the salmon won't deliver 'cause he's spawning in the river, why not risk it with a brisket and a cherry blintz? Chop it off with chocolate after dinner mince. Kasha vanishkes with gravy and a bagel smeared with lox. Chicken brogue, chicken chow mein, chicken soup, and chicken pox. Go get a tip from the pishka and you'll get another kishka. Make a wish and get a dish of fish kebab. Try our dietetic strudel. Here's a pickle for your poodle. And some ruglach, kneedlach, kreplach, lach, lach, lach. I'm like a cat with a hairball. If the meal doesn't sit on your stomach like lead, if your heart doesn't burn with an ache in the head, if you don't wake at night and wish you were dead, then we know that we've been doing something wrong. Oy vey.
Yay. My cheeks hurt again from smiling. So good. So good.
I love doing that damn song.
Oh, it's so good.
You know, I had a bike accident last summer before I came to Sonoma, and I hit my head. It was really a little scary. And I got up off the ground and I said, if I could sing the second chorus of that song, my brain is still here.
Awesome. Yes.
So every time you think, you know, because learning all that food, well, it makes you hungry, number one, but it also means your brain is still working. So it's fun to do.
I have that trick too. I was Amy and Company. So as long as I can sing
Yes.
Not Getting Married Today, I know I'm doing okay.
Exactly. You could always know that, you know, when people say, oh, poor thing, she has Alzheimer's, sing the song.
Right. Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm fine. So that's my version of that. And I'm so glad that I'm able to do it for you.
Oh, well, Stephen Cole, what were the labels we gave you? We gave you writer, we gave you not composer, lyricist,
Right.
playwright, actor, performer, comedian, all the things. Where can people find out more about you?
Oh, well, go to www.stephencole, that's STEPHENCOLE, writer, all one word, stephencolewriter.org, not .com, but .org. And my website is there. That's the very same website that the Arabs from Dubai found and decided to hire me on. So it's a good website. And I take requests on the website. You can write to me, but it's got all my shows there and videos from it and pictures. And, you know, I update it all the time. I just put a picture of the award from the critics up there. So it's good to keep it up to date, because that is why I got that job and why I've gotten other jobs. And so it shows everything, including my books, which I hope people will be interested in also. I have a novel I just finished, you know.
Really?
And it's time to get that published. Yeah.
Oh, can you tell us that story, or is it too soon?
Oh.
Too soon?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay. All right. We'll have you back.
Especially, we'll be back if I can get the publisher. Right now, as we know, everything's on pause. So we shall see what we shall see.
All right, we'll just chat about it later.
Yes, of course. It's always fun to chat with you.
So fun to talk to you too.
And
Thank
I'll
you
find
so
another
much.
song to sing. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks a million. See you
All right.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.